Rebecca Reusch was just 15 years old when she vanished in February 2019. Her disappearance sparked one of the most extensive public investigations in Germany in recent years. Yet, despite thousands of tips, searches, and headlines, one question remains unanswered. What happened to Rebecca? This is not just the story of a missing person. It's a story of family, suspicion, and a system overwhelmed by uncertainty. In this video, we'll take a deep dive into what is known, what is speculated, and why. More than 6 years later, this case still grips the country. Rebecca Reusch was born on September 21, 2003. She grew up in Berlin, the youngest of 3 sisters in a close-knit family. Her parents, Brigitte and Bernd, described her as thoughtful and sensitive. Rebecca's older sisters, Jessica and Vivian, were already out of the house, but Rebecca still lived at home with her parents in Berlin-Rudow, a quiet residential area. From an early age, Rebecca was shy but friendly. At school, she was seen as kind and dependable, although she struggled at times with self-confidence, something many teenagers can relate to. When she transferred to the Walter-Gropius-Schule in Berlin, she initially found it difficult to fit in. The pressure to belong weighed heavily on her, especially during the transition into the final years of school. Her family later spoke about possible bullying. But over time, Rebecca found new friends, with whom she would meet every morning in the school cafeteria before classes began. She loved pop culture, especially the K-pop band BTS. Like many girls her age, she enjoyed taking selfies, filming TikToks, and experimenting with her style. Social media and mental state. Rebecca was always online. On class trips, she even asked relatives to maintain her Snapchat streaks. In one group message, she wrote, "I come home, I go to bed, and I do nothing all day. I'm exhausted. I just sleep." In another message, she confided, "Everyone has a purpose. Love, work, children. I don't." These messages paint a picture of a teenager battling inner struggles. But experts later emphasized that such thoughts are not uncommon among German teenagers. In 2019, a report by the German Child and Youth Foundation revealed that 1 in 4 school-age children struggled with mental health. Yet, authorities never classified Rebecca as clinically depressed or at risk of self-harm. There was no official indication that she was in a state of psychological crisis. Her father later mentioned that she had considered switching schools in 10th grade, perhaps feeling overwhelmed. But even in moments of insecurity, Rebecca found comfort in music, friends, and family routines. Plans for the future. In the summer of 2019, Rebecca was supposed to go on a family vacation to Sweden with her parents. They planned a road trip with their camper van. But that trip would never happen. Rebecca would go missing long before those summer months arrived. Friends later revealed that Rebecca was unsure about her future. She had expressed typical teenage concerns. What do I want to do with my life? What comes after school? But she also worried more deeply than most. In one message, she wrote, "You grow up, work, get old, and then die. What's the point?" It's a question many teenagers might ask themselves. But for Rebecca, it lingered. Setting the stage. The days before. On Saturday, February 16th, 2019, 2 days before she disappeared, Rebecca was at home with her parents. At breakfast, she asked her dad to help her hang up new picture frames in her room. She said she planned to print out some photos at a local store on Monday, after school. Her weekend was set. She would spend it at her older sister Jessica's house, as she had done many times before. Jessica lived in Berlin-Britz with her husband Florian and their 2-year-old daughter. Their home, a typical single-family house, was familiar to Rebecca. She had a close bond with her sister, and her brother-in-law, Florian, was like an older brother to her. She brought an overnight bag, her toothbrush, and her favorite snacks. Everything seemed normal. It's a Monday morning in Berlin. Rebecca is staying with her sister Jessica, just as planned. Jessica's husband, Florian, had been out the night before at his company's delayed Christmas party. He later tells the police that he returned home around 5:45 a.m. and went straight to bed. But later, investigators will uncover evidence that calls this timeline into question. Jessica wakes up around 7 a.m., gets her daughter ready, and heads out to the daycare and then to work. She doesn't check the living room where Rebecca always sleeps when she's visiting. Since Rebecca's first lesson is cancelled, Jessica assumes her little sister will enjoy sleeping in. Rebecca only needs to be at school by 9:50 that day. At around 7:15, Rebecca's mother, Brigitte, tries to call her daughter. The phone is turned off. That's not unusual. Rebecca often kept her phone in airplane mode at night. Still, Brigitte sends a message to Jessica, who reassures her that Rebecca has no class until later and everything is fine. A key clue emerges later. An IT specialist hired by the family finds that Rebecca's phone connected to Jessica's home Wi-Fi for the last time at exactly 7:46 a.m. This digital footprint is the final verified signal from her device. One of Rebecca's friends will later say she received a Snapchat message from her that same morning. It was a mirror selfie showing Rebecca already dressed, wearing her black Vans and pink jacket. The friend replies, jokingly asking why she was already up and ready. But that message is never opened. At 8:25, Brigitte tries to call again. Still no answer. She calls Florian, who doesn't respond right away. Minutes later, he calls back and tells her that Rebecca is no longer in the living room. According to Brigitte, he sounds calm and says the room is dark and empty. Brigitte becomes more anxious and sends Rebecca another WhatsApp message. I hope you arrived safely at school. The message is marked as delivered, which means Rebecca's phone was still online in some way, either through mobile data or another Wi-Fi network. According to Brigitte, Rebecca didn't have mobile data, so the assumption is she must have passed by a public network. At this point, no one knows exactly what happened. What's clear is that Rebecca never makes it to school that day. She isn't reported absent, and no classmates claim to have seen her. Later in the afternoon, Jessica calls Brigitte again. Rebecca was supposed to return and spend time with her. Jessica wonders if Rebecca may have gone home to their parents instead. But Brigitte hasn't seen her either. The panic spreads. More calls are made. Friends are contacted. No one knows where she is. By evening, the Reusch family reports her missing. The next morning at 5:10 a.m., Brigitte sends one last WhatsApp message. Becky, where are you? It's never delivered. Rebecca's phone is never turned on again. If this case already has your mind racing, and you're wondering how something like this can happen in a quiet family home, show it. Leave a like if this disappearance feels just as haunting to you as it does to us. At this early stage, a few things are already deeply concerning. the missed school day, the phone that goes offline permanently, the early morning selfie, and Florian's unclear role in the hours before Rebecca's disappearance. The day after Rebecca disappears, police are officially notified. Flyers are printed. Her photo is released to the media. At first, there is hope that she might return on her own, that maybe this was a misunderstanding, a runaway case, or just a miscommunication. But when the hours turn into days, the situation shifts. On February 23rd, 5 days after she vanished, the homicide division is brought in 19 From that point on, authorities begin to suspect that Rebecca might not have disappeared voluntarily, and that a crime may have been committed. This decision isn't made lightly. Rebecca had no history of running away, and she was described as someone who always kept in touch, even if she was just a few minutes late. The family is devastated. Her father, Bernd, tells the media that Rebecca would never vanish without letting someone know. She had planned to come back that afternoon to hang her new photos. She had even left her toothbrush and extra clothes at Jessica's house, a clear sign that she intended to return. The search for Rebecca intensifies. Helicopters are used. Police officers comb through parks and forests. Clothes containers and ditches are inspected. And then a major lead emerges, one that would shift the focus of the investigation dramatically. Florian. Rebecca's brother-in-law had been the last known person in the house with her. According to his own statements, he arrived home early that morning from his work party and went to bed. But digital data tells a different story. An automatic license plate recognition system used by police in the Brandenburg area records a small raspberry-colored Renault Twingo, the car owned by Jessica and Florian, driving on the A12 highway at 10:47 a.m., the day Rebecca went missing. The direction? Toward the Polish border. This is troubling, especially since Florian originally claimed he had been asleep at that time. When police question him about the car's movements, his answers are vague. He offers explanations, but they don't match the timeline established by traffic cameras and cell phone data. On top of that, messages sent from his phone during that time suggest he was awake and using his device, not asleep, as he had claimed. Authorities conclude that he lied about his whereabouts that morning. 4 days after Rebecca vanished, police officially labeled Florian a suspect. On February 28th, he is arrested on suspicion of manslaughter. Rebecca's family is shocked. Jessica collapses during the arrest. Brigitte, Rebecca's mother, yells at the officers, convinced they are making a huge mistake. To them, Florian is family, someone they've trusted for years. But for investigators, the inconsistencies are piling up. The strange car journey, the timeline that doesn't add up, and the fact that Rebecca was never seen again after spending the night in his house. That night, the one when Rebecca vanished, would become the most scrutinized timeline in the entire case. The arrest of Florian sent shockwaves through the media and public. But it doesn't last. After just 2 days in custody, Florian is released. A judge rules that the evidence is not yet strong enough to justify holding him. There is no body, no weapon, no eyewitnesses, and most importantly, no proof that a crime even took place. This sparks intense public debate. How can someone be the prime suspect in a missing person case and still walk free? Police respond by doubling down. They begin extensive surveillance on Florian. They tap his phone, monitor his movements, and conduct further interrogations. But nothing concrete emerges. The case remains stuck between suspicion and proof. Still, investigators continue to build their timeline. And a new clue appears, one that pushes the case into even darker territory. A second sighting of the Renault Twingo. Just 1 week after Rebecca vanished, the same car is captured again by license plate recognition cameras. This time on March the 3rd, at nearly the same location as before, again heading toward the Polish border. Once more, the timing doesn't fit with Florian's statements. Why was the same car tied to the last known location of Rebecca, spotted twice, driving in the same remote area? Was it a coincidence? Or an attempt to dispose of something? Police now launch 2 large-scale searches in Brandenburg's Kummersdorf forest and along nearby lakes. Hundreds of officers, divers and dogs are deployed. They find clothing, bones, but none of it belongs to Rebecca. Still, the choice of location, the repeated car movements, and the secrecy around Florian's actions keep the pressure high. Despite this, Florian continues to deny everything. He insists he had nothing to do with Rebecca's disappearance. He claims the trips were innocent, just him needing time alone, going for drives. But investigators aren't convinced. In March 2019, he's arrested again. For a second time. But again, just days later, he's released. Without solid evidence, prosecutors have no legal basis to hold him. The public is divided. Some begin to believe Florian is innocent, a victim of flawed police work. Others are convinced that he's hiding something dark. Meanwhile, Rebecca's family remains firmly by his side. They appear together on talk shows. They defend Florian in interviews. Brigitte and Jessica even accuse the police of targeting the wrong person and ignoring other leads. To them, Florian is not just innocent, he's being wrongfully persecuted. This deepens the mystery. Why would a family protect someone the police believe may be responsible? Is it loyalty, denial, or do they know something others don't? What becomes clear is this: the deeper the case goes, the more complex it becomes. By spring 2019, the public begins to refer to the story not just as a missing person case, but as a national obsession. The mystery of Rebecca Reusch grips the country. But despite hundreds of leads, dozens of searches, and 2 arrests, she is still missing. And there are no signs of what really happened on that quiet Monday morning. As the weeks turn into months, the search for Rebecca expands. Volunteers and private citizens join the effort. Thousands of posters are hung across Berlin and Brandenburg. Social media campaigns go viral. The hashtag #JacquesFindBetty spreads quickly. But behind the scenes, the investigation is faltering. No trace of Rebecca has been found, and not a single item of clothing, no DNA, no sign she was ever outside Jessica's house that morning. The pressure on police intensifies. Critics begin to ask, did investigators focus too early, too strongly on Florian and miss other leads? A former investigator publicly questions the narrow focus. He suggests that alternative scenarios, including possible grooming or online contact with strangers, were never fully pursued. The family, however, rejects this idea, insisting that Rebecca wasn't the kind of girl to leave home voluntarily, especially without telling anyone. Meanwhile, the media continues to dig deeper into Florian's background. Journalists uncover that he struggled with substance abuse in the past, particularly cannabis. Some reports claim he used drugs heavily, including on the night before Rebecca disappeared. There's also talk of a temper, of arguments at home, and inconsistencies in his story. But nothing directly links him to a crime. By the end of 2019, frustration grows. The prosecution is unable to move forward. Investigators still list Florian as a suspect, But the case has stalled. No new evidence has emerged, no body has been found, and there are no witnesses. The public begins to lose hope, but the Reusch family holds on to theirs. Brigitte says in interviews that she believes Rebecca is still alive, possibly kidnapped, possibly trafficked. She clings to the idea that one day her daughter will walk through the front door. Jessica echoes this hope. She refuses to believe her husband could have harmed her sister. She says their marriage is strong and her trust in him is absolute. This unity in the family becomes one of the most controversial elements of the case. Some observers praise the family's strength and loyalty. Others accuse them of enabling a suspect. Or worse, covering something up. Psychologists and crime experts weigh in. They suggest that in some families, the trauma of a missing loved one can lead to denial so powerful it overrides logic. In other cases, people may fear losing more than they already have and hold on to the person they still have left. But there's no way to know for sure. The investigators, for their part, are stuck. Without a confession or a body, their hands are tied. They can't force an indictment, and they can't prove what they suspect. So the case quietly shifts from an active investigation to a cold case. Not officially but practically. The media moves on. Other headlines take over. But for the Reusch family, nothing is over. Every birthday, every holiday, every silence is a reminder that Rebecca is still gone. In 2020, the world is gripped by the COVID-19 pandemic. As lockdowns spread and society shuts down, public interest in unsolved cases fades into the background. But for the Reusch family, the search continues. Alone, they still distribute flyers. They still contact journalists. They still believe Rebecca is alive. The police, however, are running out of options. Despite repeated searches, including the draining of lakes and scouring of remote forest paths, nothing has ever been found. No trace of Rebecca, no hint of what happened after that final Wi-Fi connection at 7:46 a.m. Online, the case takes on a life of its own. Amateur sleuths, true crime forums, and YouTube creators begin reanalyzing the events. Some blame Florian, others blame the investigators. A few suggest wilder theories: human trafficking, organized crime, even mistaken identity. But most online detectives come back to one question: why didn't Rebecca leave any trace? The forensic vacuum is unusual. In most missing person cases, there are at least footprints, digital or physical. A credit card swipe, a security camera, a cell tower, ping, something. But in Rebecca's case, there is nothing after 7:46 a.m. No witness saw her, no CCTV caught her, no digital footprint exists. This absence is haunting. It's as if she vanished into thin air. Investigators now consider two possibilities. Either Rebecca left the house alive and managed to disappear completely on her own, or she never left the house at all. And if it's the latter, the only person who could have known what happened is Florian. But here's the dilemma. There's no forensic evidence, no blood, no struggle, no cleanup. And without a body, there can be no murder charge. This is the paradox at the heart of the case. The main suspect can't be cleared, but he also can't be convicted. For the public, this feels like a legal limbo. And the case continues to split public opinion. Some see Florian as a victim of a witch hunt, someone wrongfully accused without solid evidence. Others believe the justice system failed to act swiftly and decisively enough. That critical hours were lost because no one searched the house in time. That mistakes were made. The Reusch family, meanwhile, becomes increasingly private. Interviews become rarer. The emotional toll is visible. Brigitte speaks less to the press. Jessica retreats from the public eye. Even online supporters begin to fall silent, unsure what to believe. And through all of this, Rebecca remains missing. No grave, no goodbye, no closure. In the years that follow, the case of Rebecca Reusch turns from a national search into a national mystery. Anniversaries come and go. News outlets release updates, mostly rehashing old facts. Occasionally, a new theory or sighting makes headlines, but nothing ever leads anywhere concrete. In February 2022, German police quietly confirm that the case is still open but inactive. Florian remains a suspect, but no new evidence has emerged. The investigation is stalled. For many, this feels like abandonment. How can a 15-year-old girl vanish from a family home without anyone seeing, hearing, or knowing anything? The frustration fuels conspiracy theories. Some speculate that Rebecca had secret online contacts and may have run away with someone she met on Snapchat or Instagram. Others believe that a third person, unknown to both family and police, might have been involved, a silent intruder, a one-time predator, a crime of opportunity. But each of these theories runs into the same wall. There's no evidence, no sightings, no DNA, no witnesses. And while it's theoretically possible that Rebecca left voluntarily, experts remind us that doing so without a trace is almost impossible in the digital age, especially for a teenager glued to her phone. Some psychologists suggest another theory, that Rebecca may have been in a vulnerable mental state and left impulsively, without planning, possibly to clear her head or escape pressure. But even then, the same questions apply. Where did she go? How did she vanish so cleanly? Why hasn't a single clue emerged? And if she had died accidentally, say from exposure or a fall, her body should have been found by now. Instead, there's a void, a growing, oppressive silence that deepens with each passing year. For Rebecca's parents, the uncertainty becomes a kind of slow torture. Her mother says in interviews that she still sets a place for Rebecca at the dinner table, that she waits for her to come home. There's no closure, no justice, only theories. And in the absence of facts, the public continues to divide. Was this a perfect crime, a police failure, or something else entirely? As the years pass, one question becomes louder than all the others. Why didn't the justice system do more? Critics argue that the investigation focused too narrowly on Florian from the beginning, that once he became the main suspect, all other possibilities were sidelined. No extensive public call for witnesses outside the family's inner circle. No broader appeals for digital clues. No deep dive into Rebecca's online life. Some legal experts point out a problem seen in many German missing person cases. Once the police decide on a theory, alternative scenarios often receive less attention. It's called confirmation bias, the tendency to interpret all evidence in a way that supports your initial conclusion. And while the investigators did collect enormous amounts of data, from phone records to GPS movements, the weight of that data was always interpreted with Florian in mind. The prosecution held firm. Twice they issued arrest warrants. Twice the judges declined to keep him in custody. They demanded more than circumstantial evidence. They wanted a concrete link. A confession, a body, a smoking gun. Without it, Florian remained free. And the case remained stuck. Even Rebecca's extended family became divided. Some believed Florian was guilty. Others stood by him. At one point, a close relative posted online saying, "If you only knew what we know, you'd be shocked he's not behind bars. But no one ever clarified what that meant. It's that kind of ambiguity that has kept the public deeply engaged and deeply polarized. Rebecca's case became more than a mystery. It became a mirror of how trust fractures under pressure. Trust in the police, trust in family, trust in truth itself. Meanwhile, the world moved on. Other news took over the headlines. Other tragedies replaced this one in the national conversation. But for the Reusch family, time didn't move forward. It froze on February 18th, 2019. Every birthday without her, every anniversary, every empty chair, every unopened message. In the years since Rebecca disappeared, there have been countless theories. Forums, podcasts, YouTube videos, social media groups. Everyone trying to solve the case in their own way. But not all attention has been helpful. Years have passed since Rebecca vanished. And with each year, the case becomes colder, more distant, more buried beneath newer stories and shifting public attention. But for those closest to her, nothing has faded. Her room remains untouched. Her belongings are still in place. Her absence is a constant presence. A missing space at the table. A silence where laughter used to be. There's no closure, no final chapter, just questions. What happened in those early morning hours at Jessica and Florian's house? Why did Rebecca never arrive at school? Why did her phone go dark forever after 7:46 a.m.? Did she leave on her own, or was someone responsible for making her disappear? For many, the answers feel just out of reach, as if one overlooked clue, one forgotten witness, could change everything. But until that clue is found, the case remains open. Not legally, perhaps, but emotionally, socially, culturally. Because Rebecca is not just a face on a missing person poster. She's a daughter, a sister, a friend, a girl whose story reminds us that even in a digital age filled with data and surveillance, people can still vanish without a trace. And maybe the most haunting part isn't just that Rebecca disappeared, but that someone, somewhere, might still know why. Some internet sleuths have accused Rebecca's family of hiding something. Others have speculated wildly, creating timelines, maps, and what-if scenarios based on little more than assumptions. Some claim she ran away. Others believe in far darker explanations: trafficking, abduction, or trauma. Accident. Cover someone close. What do you think really happened that morning? Do you believe someone inside the house knows more than they admit? Let me know your theory in the comments. I read every one. Their family has been forced to live through these theories over and over again. Each new post, each new accusation reopens the wound. Each media appearance is a tightrope walk. Say too much and it's twisted against you. Say too little and people assume you're hiding something. Despite it all, Rebecca's parents have never stopped searching. They've handed out flyers, appeared in TV programs, followed up on every possible lead. They even hired private experts to investigate the digital trail, the hoping technology might give them what traditional methods could not. But time is cruel in missing person cases. With every day that passes, memories fade, locations change, witnesses move, and most tragically, hope becomes harder to hold on to. Still, Brigitte and Bernd refuse to give up. In interviews, they say they believe Rebecca is alive, somewhere, that she's perhaps being held against her will, or that she's scared to return. It's a belief they hold on to because the alternative, accepting her death, is unbearable. Even in the face of no new evidence, the Reusch family pushes forward. Not because they're naive, but because it's the only way to keep going. To not let the world forget, to not let the silence win. If you want to follow this case until the very end and not miss any updates or deep dives like this one, subscribe to the channel. This is not just a story. This could still become a case with answers.